When Keanu Reeves walked into the tiny barbershop on 7th and Main, nobody looked up. The place was old, worn out, with cracked linoleum floors and faded posters of hairstyles from the 90s. A ceiling fan hummed above, slow and tired. 3 men waited in silence. No one recognized him. He liked it that way. Keanu just wanted a quiet haircut, just 30 minutes to think. He took a seat in the corner chair, third from the left, the one nearest the dusty magazine rack. The barber, a broad-shouldered man in his 60s named Roy, nodded at him once. "You're next after the kid," he said without breaking rhythm. Keanu nodded back. He didn't mind waiting, but then the door opened again. A boy stepped in, maybe 10. His clothes were clean but clearly second-hand. His sneakers had duct tape on one toe. He clutched a crumpled dollar bill in his fist, barely enough for gum, let alone a haircut. Roy's eyes narrowed. "Can I help you, son?" The boy hesitated. "My mom said I could get cleaned up here. For the school photo." His voice was soft, but the room heard every word. Roy looked down at the kid's hand. "That's not gonna cover it," he muttered. The boy looked at the floor. Silence. One of the waiting men scoffed. "Let the kid come back when he's got money." That's when Keanu stood up. Nobody had noticed him until that moment. But now, every head turned. He didn't say anything, just walked over to Roy, leaned in and whispered something. Roy's expression shifted. His shoulders dropped. Then, without a word, he patted the chair in front of him. "Hop up, kid." The boy blinked. "Really?" Roy nodded. "You heard the man." As the kid climbed into the chair, Roy glanced at Keanu, who had returned to his seat and crossed his legs like nothing happened. That should have been the end of it. But then Roy said something, low, almost to himself, but loud enough for the room to hear. "I thought you were just a look-alike." Now the room was really watching. And in that moment, everyone began to wonder, who was this quiet guy in the corner, and why had the whole energy in the room shifted the second he stood up? They'd get their answer, but not the one they were expecting. Because what happened next wasn't about a haircut at all. It was about something far deeper, and it would change the fate of that old barbershop forever. Roy didn't speak a word during the entire haircut. Aside from the snipping of the scissors, the barbershop was completely silent. The boy didn't look in the mirror. His head was slightly bowed, eyes down. Roy worked with the grace of an old master, though his hands moved more carefully than usual. Maybe because of the man sitting nearby. Keanu still hadn't said anything. He pretended to flip through a magazine, but the pages remained untouched. His eyes drifted to a tear on the boy's shoe. It was like he'd remembered something. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, Roy gave a final touch, then gently tapped the boy's shoulder. "All done, handsome." The boy raised his head. He looked at himself in the mirror. The expression on his face went beyond a simple haircut. It was as if, for the first time, he saw someone else in the reflection. He sat up straighter, said nothing more. "Thank you," he whispered. Roy nodded. "Don't thank me," he said, tipping his head toward Keanu. "Thank him." The boy turned. Keanu just smiled. "One day," Keanu said softly, "you'll do the same for someone else. That's enough." The boy was too young to understand how deep that word was. But the air in the room had shifted. It wasn't just the boy who left. Something older, something worn and heavy, seemed to lift from the walls. After the door closed, Roy took a deep breath. He tossed the towel onto the counter and turned to Keanu. "I remember you," he said. "You might not remember me." Keanu looked up. For the first time, he studied Roy's face. "Roy McCall," the man said. 1983, Culver City. A kid came in one morning with his mother. She was sick. He was quiet. Hair was a mess. I gave him a free cut. Just didn't sit right to charge him." Something changed in Keanu's expression. His eyes grew heavier. "That was my mother's hardest year," he said quietly. "I remember everything about that day, even the clock on that wall. It hasn't moved." Roy let out a small laugh. "So it was you." "It was," Keanu said. "I never forgot." Roy's face was still firm, but his eyes had softened, slightly wet. "All these years. I never expected you'd come back like this." Keanu shrugged. "Sometimes the road leads you to an old place. But this time, it's our turn to do what you once did." Just then, the man waiting in the corner chimed in. "You two talk like gods, but I'm still waiting for a shave." Roy burst out laughing. "Today it's the universe's turn, Jake. You're next." But Keanu stood up from his seat. "No," he said. "You're up now. I've already gotten what I came for." Roy blinked. "What do you mean?" Keanu picked up his jacket. "I came here to get a haircut, but now I need to think bigger." Then he turned and walked toward the exit. But just before opening the door, he paused. "This place is still yours, Roy, but you're not alone anymore." The streetlight outside lit Keanu's face. Roy looked at him and saw not just the past or the present, but a kind of respect that didn't carry a debt. "I'll be back," Keanu said, and then he left. But that was where the real story began, because from that moment on, Roy's life and the fate of that little barbershop would never be the same again. The next morning, as Roy lifted the shop's gate, something caught his eye. A small brown paper bag sat quietly by the door. No branding, no logo from a trendy coffee chain. Just a handwritten note attached. "Keep cutting the way only you can." Inside, he found a plain thermos of black coffee, a fresh pastry, and underneath it all, an envelope. He opened it. A letter, handwritten. "In 1983, you didn't just cut hair. You gave a boy the courage to look in the mirror without shame. Today it's my turn. This city still needs to be reminded that people like you exist." There was no signature, but Roy didn't need one. He knew exactly who had left it. That day, the shop opened differently. The line began to form early. Even the usual slow hours around lunch were suddenly booked. No one said anything out loud, but the silence on everyone's faces spoke the same truth. Something happened here. One of Roy's longtime customers, Mr. Hanley, said quietly during his cut, "Years ago, I brought my son here. He was shy, barely spoke. You didn't even say much to him, but after the haircut, he told me, 'Maybe now people won't stare at me so long anymore.' You probably don't remember that, but he never forgot." Roy nodded silently. Words weren't his thing, but something stirred inside him that he couldn't name. And by the end of that long, different kind of day, another visitor arrived. She was in her early 20s, holding an old black and white photo of a little boy standing next to a young mother outside Roy's shop. "That's you," the young woman said. "And that's my mom." Roy squinted. Recognition took a few seconds. "Susan?" She nodded. "I'm Mia. My mom used to talk about you. She said, in her hardest years, you were the first person to cut her hair and say, 'You look beautiful.' She never forgot it." Roy stepped back slightly, unsure what to say. "Yesterday, someone stopped me near here," Mia said. "He asked, 'Is Roy still cutting hair?' Then he told me, 'If he is, tell him this. Sometimes a haircut can change a child's entire life.'" And just like that, Roy understood everything. Keanu hadn't come back just to remember the past. He came to start something, to set something in motion, quietly, without credit, without spotlight, to transform, not just repay. And for the first time, on a day he hadn't even sat in the barber chair, Roy felt like the one in the center of it all. That evening, as he locked up, he found another note. This one was in the mailbox, same handwriting, no name. "Tomorrow at 10 a.m., someone will walk through your door. They're not just looking for a seat. They're looking for a chance. Please cut one more time, this time for a different future." Roy took a deep breath, looked in the mirror. It was the first time he noticed how much he'd changed in just a few days. Yes, he was older. Yes, his hands weren't as steady as they used to be, but he could still cut, and some cuts weren't just about hair. It was 9:58 a.m. Roy was wiping down his chair, adjusting the seat one last time when he heard the front door open. No chime. Just the soft creak of hinges, then quiet footsteps. A girl stood in the doorway, maybe 17 or 18, worn denim jacket, a tired-looking backpack over her shoulders. Her hair wasn't messy, just long overdue. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Is this Roy's place?" Roy gave a simple nod. She stepped inside. "Is there a seat?" This time he spoke. "There's one just for you." She paused, surprised. "Someone told you I was coming?" "Not someone," Roy said. "The right one." She sat, bag on her lap, hands clasped tightly. She avoided the mirror. "My name's Ellie," she said after a moment. "There's school photos tomorrow. I don't have money. My mom's been sick for 3 years. I guess I forgot how to take care of myself." Roy didn't say a word. He simply picked up the scissors. Before the first cut, he asked just one thing. "What do you want to see in the mirror?" Ellie hesitated, then quietly answered, "Just someone different." Roy nodded. "All right then, let's begin." They didn't talk during the cut. The shop was silent except for the soft rhythm of the scissors and the hair falling to the floor. Roy moved with purpose, not rushed but sure. About 20 minutes later, he was done. He looked at her face before lifting the mirror. "You ready?" he asked. Ellie gave a small shrug. Roy turned the mirror around. She stared. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. She reached up, gently touched her hair. "Is that me?" Roy didn't reply. He didn't need to. She was seeing herself, not as she had been, but as she could be. Ellie stood up, reached into her pocket, but Roy held up a hand. "This one's on the house," he said. "But there's a condition." She blinked. "What is it?" He smiled softly. "Someday hold up a mirror for someone else. Tell them they're truly beautiful." Ellie looked down, then met his eyes again. "Thank you," she said. "I won't forget this." At the door, she paused, turned, glanced once more at the mirror, this time standing tall. When Roy was alone again, he sat in his chair, an empty mug in hand, his mind full of silence. Everything was starting to make sense, and the man who started it all wasn't even here, but his presence was. In the mirrors, the chairs, the quiet smiles, and for the first time Roy felt ready to hear his own story, spoken in someone else's words. It was exactly noon. Roy was heading to the sink to clean his razor when the door chime rang. This time the sound was firm, confident. The shadow cast on the shop's glass suddenly felt familiar. Roy looked up. Keanu Reeves had walked in. Same jacket, same calm eyes, but this time there was a clear smile on his face. Roy set his scissors aside. "Honestly," he said, "didn't think I'd see you again." Keanu nodded slightly. "Neither did I. But sometimes, some places call you back." Roy gestured to the chair, but Keanu didn't sit, not yet. He wandered the shop, eyes scanning the shelves, the walls. For a second, his gaze caught the mirror, then turned back to Roy. "When I first came here," Keanu said, "I didn't know what I was looking for. I just wanted some quiet, but this place, it helps people begin again." Roy listened quietly. Keanu continued. "On my way here today, I met a girl. Said she got her hair cut in your shop. Didn't know your name. Her name's Ellie. She told me that for the first time in her life. She looked into a mirror and didn't look away." Roy averted his eyes, but something stirred in him. Quiet pride, laced with something heavier. Keanu sat down, not as a customer, just as someone, as a man. "You know, Roy," he said softly, "some people make films, some cut hair, but what you do, what you give, there's no script for it." Roy gave a faint smile. "I just cut hair." "No," Keanu said, "you bring people back to themselves. People who feel like strangers in their own reflection. You remind them who they are. This little barbershop, it's a lot bigger than it looks." There was silence for a while. Then Keanu leaned back in the chair. "I want to look in the mirror again," he said, "but not just for my hair this time." Roy nodded and picked up his scissors. They didn't speak during the cut, but there was something between them now. A quiet bond, a bridge formed between a movie star and an old barber, two men no longer alone in a city full of strangers. When Roy finished, Keanu looked in the mirror. He lowered his head and smiled. "Nice work." "Thank you," Roy said. As they walked toward the door, Keanu paused. He reached into his pocket and handed Roy a folded piece of paper. On it, an address and a single sentence. "This should continue. If you're ready, I'm in." Roy read it, then nodded. "I'm ready." The door opened. Sunlight poured into the room, but this time the light felt different, like the shop had finally caught the right kind of glow it had waited years for, and Keanu walked out, just as quietly as he had come in. Only now, he didn't leave behind just footprints. He left a new path. A week later, Roy's barbershop looked almost the same. Same creaky floors, same mirrors, same worn-out chairs. But the air inside, it was different now. Someone had left a cardboard box by the window. A handwritten sign on it read, "Free books, take one." Inside were old haircutting manuals, books on philosophy, psychology, even a few poetry collections. That day, a young customer took a book after his haircut. As he left, he said, "Thanks. I think you opened more than just my hair today." Roy was still trying to make sense of it all. The old Roy might have ignored such things. But now, he saw more in people than just messy hair. That mirror wasn't just for checking the cut anymore. It was a witness to something deeper. Transformation. A bulletin board had been added near the back wall. Notes pinned in messy handwriting. "Thank you for listening. Every time I come here, I leave a little lighter. There's a kind of quiet here that I haven't found anywhere else. My hair's fixed, but so is something else." Every day a new note showed up, and Roy was no longer the withdrawn, tired man he once was. Keanu hadn't come back, but that address he left, it was still in Roy's pocket. Then one morning, just after sunrise, the door opened. Roy didn't even look up. "Morning," he said. A man in his 30s walked in, nervous but curious. A plain t-shirt, hands tucked into his pockets. I came for the program, he said, and the new training one. Is this the place? Roy paused, then nodded. It is. The chair's open. That day, Roy picked up his scissors, not just to cut hair, but to shape something new. The young man's hands trembled as he held the shears. Roy gently adjusted his grip. Don't cut with your hands, he said. Cut with your eyes. The trainee looked confused. Roy explained, you're not fixing hair. You're restoring confidence. If you focus on that, the rest will follow. And in that moment, Roy's chair became more than just a seat. It became a place of learning, a place of change. Months later, during a quiet interview, Keanu mentioned the shop on TV. He didn't name it, didn't say where it was, but he said this: I once met a barber who could heal people without saying a word. All he needed was a chair. After the show aired, the shop overflowed with visitors, but Roy stayed the same. No rush, no fuss, just listening, just being present. Maybe Keanu never returned, but his presence, his mark, never left. Roy was no longer just a barber. He was something else now, something more. And that chair, even when empty, still spoke volumes. If this story touched you, take a moment to reflect. And if you'd like more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe.